What's going on, world? It's your boy Gemini Brown here, back with another episode of Nalo Kicking Knowledge. Happy Veterans Day to all the veterans who help protect this country. Never been a fan of war, but definitely a fan of those willing to go out there and serve their country and protect others. Today, continuing with our Venus through Sign series, we'll be going to the opposite of Venus in Libra, which is Venus in Aries. Shout out to my man Smokey Valentino. And I find it so fitting that I'm going to do Venus in Aries on Veterans Day. Because if you don't know, Venus is the planet of love, creativity, pleasure, beauty, and the want to form relationships. Aries is a sign of action, aggressiveness, competition, impulsiveness, sports, the military, war, right? So when Venus comes into the sign of Aries, this is a position that it presents an issue for the native, right? Because Venus represents the type of relationships we seek out as well as the type of people we draw into ourselves. So, knowing what we know about Aries, we would think that the person is quite an aggressive lover, quite an competitive person, so therefore attracted to that kind of person. Aries is a dominating sign. It's ruled by Mars, and Mars is the red planet. So think of it in the sense of that when Aries is controlling our world, Mars is ruling Venus, it's heating Venus up and it's injecting its quality of impulsiveness to Venus. So the person with this Venus is kind of under a love spell. They see something they like and then they tell themselves, I'm going to get it. The competitive nature comes out, right? Now, usually people are in it for the thrill of the chase. And this is more so very much Venus in Aries. So you'll find that they're very impulsive, man. Like their relationships come and go. Just as fast as they fall in of love, they fall out of love. What's the problem? Well, on one hand, we have a person who is pretty dominating themselves. Okay, so naturally, they're not looking for that dominating personality in return. They're more so looking for a competitive person, a real masculine kind of person. If it's a guy, he'll be attracted to, a woman who can, maybe go out there and exercise with him and do things of a physical nature. So when headstrong meets headstrong, there's a clash. And not to mention the other factors in the chart may be off. Say the person with the Venus in Aries is dating somebody with a Mars in Aquarius, and they're just not that sexual, or Mars in Libra, and they're just not that sexual. Well, it's another problem because Aries is has a Venus in Aries has a high sex drive. Very much the way they express themselves. That's the physical act of love. Sex is a physical act of love. And more times, this Venus in Aries has a really, really high sex drive. And that may not go well with other partners. So, what happens to Venus in Aries a lot is that they end up being bored and they move on to the next conquest, right? So when looking at Venus just in signs, we want to understand that Venus is fully embodying the characteristics of this sign. So in their pursuit for love, they will be aggressive. They will like competitive people. In the relationship, okay, if you're dating a Venus in Aries, this should be fun. This should really be fun because Venus in Aries is always trying to go out there and do things. These are the type of people that, you know, before you date them, you may have never touched the gym. But in that relationship, you may be in there 3 times a week with them. If you're not in the gym, you're out there just experiencing something new. Action. Remember, Aries is about action. So these guys want to stay entertained. And when they're not entertained, they do impulsive things. All right? So I get a lot of emails saying that Venus and Aries are cheaters. And I can't one thing I always say about infidelity is that we all have the ability to cheat. We all have the ability to cheat. But you wanna, before don't judge anybody, but take the time to thoroughly check out the chart and see what's what. Because if Venus is conjunct here with Saturn, quite a loyal, serious person in terms of relationships. Now, the next thing here about Venus and Aries, obviously, with aggression can come anger. So these are people who may end up into abusive relationships or whatever. They can be the abuser or they can be abused. Another thing is like this is prime for, especially for a woman. This is pretty much prime to seeing who she's attracted to. 9 times out of 10, the female with the Venus in Aries is that female that wants muscles and that macho athletic swag. So you can definitely see a Venus in Aries marrying an athlete, marrying somebody of high status that's very much so like egotistical. All right, so I'm sure you can see why I say there's a problem here. It's really a butting of heads. They often feel dissatisfied with what they get because no one act, and that's why they say opposites attract. Ideally, for the Venus in Aries is a Libra type personality, someone easygoing who doesn't want to take the lead. They're like, you take the lead, right? That's ideally what Venus in Aries wants, not another dominating, headstrong person, but just somebody who is outgoing and courageous enough to keep them entertained. And keeping entertained is a theme you'll see with the fire signs. They like to be entertained. All right, guys. So this was my interpretation of Venus in the sign of Aries. I hope you enjoyed. If you haven't already, feel free to subscribe to my page. Have any questions? Hit me up. Let's talk. Until next time, peace.